What's going on here gamers? Today we're going to be diving into a bit more Diablo 4, and what we're going to be covering today is going to be what I believe are probably the best 5 barbarian skills that you can pick up for the class. So if you want to know what some truly powerful skills are, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everybody. Today we're taking a look at the Barbarian class and some of the best skills that you can pick up to do some insane damage or just to make your class very powerful in some way, shape or form. Now first off, if you enjoy this content and if it helps you at all, then a thumbs up would be much appreciated, and if you'd like to become a member of the channel for all the latest greatest content, then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon. But for now, we'll be diving into my top 5 picks for what I believe are probably the best barbarian skills. Now remember, this doesn't mean that you're going to mesh them all together. You can pick and choose which ones you like, and of course all skills for the barbarian are viable, so even if it's not on this list but you do enjoy using it, then don't be afraid to try it out. Also, lastly, I've said this is a top 5, but I have included a bonus one at the end that I think will go under a lot of people's radar and could be very powerful in the right builds. Now in no particular order, the first one we're going to be covering is going to be Rallying Cry. Shouts for the Barbarian are very powerful. You are almost definitely going to have 1, 2 or maybe even all 3 of them, but personally I think Rallying Cry is probably the best one out of the lot. The reason for this, it covers pretty much all of your bases. As standard, it's going to increase your movement speed by 30% and resource generation by 40% for 6 seconds, as well as affecting nearby allies, and the resource generation is going to go up as you start putting more points into it. Once you unlock its enhanced node, you're also going to get Unstoppable, which is something as a close range class, completely in amongst the thick of things, you're 100% going to need. Lastly, you'll be able to unlock either the Tactical Rallying Cry, where you're going to get a little bit more fury as well as a bit more fury generation, or you can go to one that I prefer, and that's going to be the Strategic Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry grants you 10% base life as Fortify, and whilst it's active you're going to get 2% base life as Fortify each time you take or deal direct damage. This makes your Fortify very easy to generate, and it now means that just by using this one skill you've got extra movement, you've got extra resource generation, you're grabbing Unstoppable, and you're also able to get Fortify very easy. Remember, further down your tree you're also able to pick up a node that's going to mean that when your shout is active you're going to grab yourself some healing. If you pick that up as well, this is going to do 5 very important things for the Barbarian all at once. Next up, and jumping over to a core skill that I cannot leave off this list, and that's going to be the Whirlwind. As standard, it's going to cost you 25 per second for a Fury, generate lucky hit of 25%, and it's going to rapidly attack your surrounding enemies. It's not the highest base damage straight away, but there's so many aspects and so much going on with your kit that can make this a truly powerful core skill that is well worth having in your arsenal. Picking up Enhanced Whirlwind is going to mean that you're now going to gain Fury each time Whirlwind deals direct damage to an enemy, or up to 4 Fury against elite enemies, making it so that this will have a massive amount of uptime even if you're not specced into it too much. For the last nodes, you can either go Furious Whirlwind, so whilst using a slashing weapon, Whirlwind also inflicts 40% of its base damage as bleeding damage over 5 seconds, or Violent Whirlwind. After using Whirlwind for 2 seconds, Whirlwind deals 30% increased damage up until it's cancelled. I think 90% of the time using Furious Whirlwind is going to be the way forward with this, because there's a lot going on with the Barbarian class that revolves around bleeding, extra damage, and later on once you start unlocking some of his Paragon board, this is going to boost your damage massively. For out and out speed of clearing dungeons, this one will probably be your top pick for quite some time. If however Whirlwind is not your style and you prefer a different core skill, then I would definitely recommend Hammer of the Ancients. With a cost of 35 Fury and lucky hit chance of 50%, you're going to slam your hammer down and it's going to deal 50% damage in a concentrated area. Whilst not hitting quite as hard a standard as Upheaval, overall I think once you get into the endgame, this one is probably going to outclass it. Jumping over to its enhanced node again, and you've got Enhanced Hammer of the Ancients, you're going to gain 3% more Fury for 5 seconds for each enemy damaged by Hammer of the Ancients, and it's going to stack up to 10 times. Again, this is going to mean you've got more Fury generation going on, which is always going to be needed for the Barbarian, and then you can move across to the next node. The first one is going to be Violent Hammer of the Ancient. After overpowering with Hammer of the Ancients, you deal 30% more damage for 5 seconds. This one is really nice, it's going to be easy to pull off, a lot of times you won't even know you're doing it, but the extra damage is going to be significant. But for my books, even better than that is going to be Furious Hammer of the Ancients. if you're able to keep a lot of fury generated, Hammer of the Ancients deals times 1% additional damage for each point of fury you had when using it. If you've got a lot of fury generation going on, you're able to get quite a few ranks into this, and you're able to find some aspects towards this later on. This is going to melt enemies, bosses, whatever you put in front of it, and you'll have a lot of fun whilst you do it. Jumping over to our next one, and one of my favourite moves in the game is going to be Death Blow. This is a weapon mastery, but it hits like an absolute truck. If you can manage to pull off enough damage, then this is pretty much going to one-shot any of those enemies, any of those elites, pretty much anything you're going for, as long as you've set yourself up right, especially if you're going for a build centered around this. It does have a cooldown of 15 seconds, but even as standard, the amount of damage you get for it is 120%, so it's a lot more than any of your other skills. It goes up by 12% each time, and the great thing about this, if you can make it hit hard enough and you're able to take out an enemy each time you use it, then its cooldown is reset, allowing you to use it over and over again. The icing on the cake is going to be Enhanced Death Blow. Death Blow now deals 100% increased damage to those bosses. Like I said, this is going to hit ridiculously hard, and it may well be something you'll be able to build around. Going on to the last nodes, and you can either pick up Fighter's Death Blow. If Death Blow damages at least one enemy, gain 20 fury, again allowing you to get a little bit of extra resources for your core skills. Or if you're able to make it hit hard enough, probably better than that is going to be Warrior's Death Blow. If Death Blow damages at least one enemy, gain Berserking for 3 seconds. Especially if you're able to make this one shot everything you're doing, then you're going to have constant Berserk, you're going to have a massive amount of damage, and there's a few things that you can spec into, aspects and a unique item that you may want to farm for later on that can really make this shine. Over to what I think is probably the best ultimate, and now we're looking at Wrath of the Berserker. It does have a 60-second cooldown, so it's not going to be something you're spamming most times, but it brings a lot to the Barbarian class. Explode into Rage, knock back surrounding enemies, and you're going to gain Berserking and Unstoppable for 5 seconds. For the next 10 seconds, dealing direct damage with basic skills is going to grant Berserking for 5 seconds as well. This is going to allow you to be an absolute ball of rage, completely unstoppable for a while. You've got the Berserking going on, and with the extra nodes that we're going to be picking up. So the first enhanced one is going to be Prime Wrath of the Berserker. While Wrath of the Berserker is active, gain 20% increased movement speed and increased fury generation by 30%. And finally Supreme Wrath of the Berserker. Whilst Wrath of the Berserker is active, every 50 fury you spend, increase Berserk's damage bonus by 25%. This is going to allow you to pull off a lot of damage, you're going to have a lot of speed as well and mobility. Of course you've got the Unstoppable going on, and it'll just be a great move to pull out on any situation you find tricky, or if you know there's a tough elite or boss coming up. Now going over to my bonus skill, and this is going to be one that I think a lot of people just completely glaze over, but honestly, do not let this one fool you. Bash is going to be ridiculously good on the Barbarian class. As standard, it's going to generate 10 fury, bash the enemy with your weapon, dealing 30% damage, and after bashing enemies 4 times, your next bash will stun for 1.25 seconds. This increases to 2 seconds if using a two-handed weapon. Equip yourself with a big nice mace, trust me, you'll thank me later, and this will actually do a fair amount of damage as well as giving off those brief moments of stun. But the main reason you're going to be using this will be for some of the things we're looking at later. Your Enhanced Bash, damaging a stunned enemy with Bash, grants you 10% base life as Fortify, double this amount when using a two-handed weapon. Going through your skill tree later on, you can make it so you stun things very easily. You're now going to be able to top up Fortify pretty much whenever you want, just from holding down your standard attack, and then moving across to your last nodes, you can pick up either Battle Bash, which is damaging a stunned enemy with Bash, generates an additional 3 fury or 4 if using a two-handed weapon, or of course the main reason I'm recommending this, Combat Bash. After critically striking 4 times with Bash using a two-handed weapon, your next core or weapon mastery skill will overpower. Being able to guarantee an overpower, especially with a Barbarian, can verge on the ridiculous, and with the right setup, the right skills in place, and speccing into a lot of overpower, this one basic attack can completely set you up for the toughest encounters. Trust me, if you're going for an overpower build, this is going to be one of the best ways to activate it in the game, not only for the Barbarian class, but pretty much for any class, as long as you've got a good build around yourself and you've got a high amount of crit. This will probably come into play a little bit more later game than early game, but even early game, if you wanted to, you could give this a whirl just to see how effective it is. Well, you gamers, they're my top picks. Let me know in the comments. I'm guaranteeing that a lot of you will have a difference of opinions, as it's all down to your playstyle and which ones you enjoyed using. But overall, I feel that these ones definitely shine the most for the Barbarian, and you're probably going to have one or two of them in most of your builds. But as always, there'll be a lot more Diablo 4 from me. Take care. I'll see you on the next day.